Hello and welcome to Down and Dirty with Darci. I'm your host, Darci Smith, also known as Career Coach Darci. We are here to get down and dirty about careers, uncovering salaries, wild stories, backgrounds, and more from guests with some of the most eccentric professions each week. This podcast is presented by Onomy. Welcome back to Down and Dirty with Darci. It is episode 21. Sam's here. Guess what?
We're back, baby.
We're back. And I have termites.
Oh,
I have termites.
my God.
That's the lead in
Termites
this episode.
Literally the worst. Probably, I'm just trying to think before I say this. I think they're probably the worst thing on this planet that you can deal with.
If I
just
had an
because they're such an inconvenience.
Yeah, but if I had an
twice,
infestation of something else, you had to actually leave though. You had to like evacuate.
Oh yeah, full tenting of the building, two different locations, full tenting. Had to leave. The second time when I came back, by the way, this is your story, not mine, but since I'm telling you, the second time when I came back, the gas company has to inspect before we can go back in. And when I was supposed to go back into my house, they found a gas leak. So then we had to be out for like an extra week. So I was out for like 2 weeks. It was horrific.
Dang. What did you do? Just live in a hotel? They insurance paid?
We stayed at a relative's house who was out of town. So we had a place to stay, thankfully, but it was bad. And the worst part was the termites weren't even in my unit, but they were in someone else's unit in the building.
Oh, so the whole building had to get tinted. I see. Well, I have good news for me. The termites are not the wood ones, they're the soil ones. So they're all in the soil and now they're crawling into the house. And so my story is that I was walking past a wall in my house and there was this big clump of dirt on the wall. And I was thinking oh, my dogs ran up against it. They were super muddy. It's been raining here. So I go up to it, not even thinking. And I hit it because I was oh, let's just wash this off the wall. And so I go to hit this clump of dirt. It falls off and millions of little bugs start running out. Yeah. It was absolutely terrifying, disgusting. And I was I guess these are termites. I don't know. And so I could bring my computer over and show you, but now there's just a hole in the wall and I have a piece of Scotch tape over it.
That's what I do. I have so many bugs in my house. I have these little fly type things that were flying in through this crack between the window and where the wall met the window and this skylight. And I couldn't figure out how to get rid of them. So I just taped around the bottom of the window where it met the wall, and they haven't come back since.
Nice. Okay.
That was we have a year ago. So tape the bugs
that
away.
Work. Tape the bugs away. I had a lady come over today. She was a inspector of some sorts, and she was looking for termites, and she had a little flashlight out, and she looked at me and she goes, "What is this? Just Scotch tape over this?" I'm yep, Scotch tape. And she was "Okay, do you mind if I pull it off?" I was you pull it off, but if those bugs come crawling out, that's on you. That's not on me. And so,
oh my God.
She did that. And then she kept knocking at it and more the bugs. I could see the bugs walking around. And I was this is not cool. But then she told me, I don't actually have to leave. They just have to spray and do all this kind of stuff. Cause when they're in the soil, it's better. You don't have to actually fumigate like they do with the wood. So
yeah, that's good.
Things are looking up. No.
Wait, so what did you do when all of the bugs came out of the little hole? What did you do?
Yeah.
Did you have to kill them or something?
Yeah, it was kind of if you remember the mummy scene, the when all the bugs come crawling out of the casket.
Oh yeah.
And they it was a
shout out
version
Brendan
of
Fraser.
That. Yeah.
Best actor from 2023.
Yeah. Okay. Did he win something?
Yeah, he won Best Actor at the Oscars.
Oh, the Oscars. I always get them all confused. There's a Grammy, there's an Oscar, there's a Tony. I don't know the difference. I want the podcast one, whatever that is, the podcast
Yeah.
one.
I don't know. The potties.
Potties. Yeah, no, it was that. And I just stomped them. But I live basically in the forest. I have tons of spiders. I actually have one in my bathroom that I call Spencer the spider, and we've been like hanging out for at least 6 months. Like he's such a homie. One time, like he was looking a little bit like smaller, and then so I was like making sure I was bringing him like some food. So there's like little bugs that died like in my front. This is not I'm not joking, by the way. This is serious. So there was some like there was so you look like you're like not paying attention that much, like as if I'm just making this up. That's a real story. So there's bugs
I
outside of
follow.
my listen, there's bugs outside of my house because I have a light, right? And then the bugs like die on the light. So I scooped up a few little gnats and I brought him into Spencer's web, and so he could eat because he hangs out in the corner of my bathroom and I want him to be okay. So
Okay.
today,
So you're feeding your spider in
yeah,
your bathroom spider. Spencer. Okay,
Spencer. Cool. Spencer was hanging down from the ceiling today and I was getting ready. I was putting my makeup on and he was like chilling like right next to me. I swear like he's like we're homies. I was like, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" And then he like shot back up and I was like, "Okay." So that's my life.
That's I don't really think I have anything that can compare to that.
Oh.
But
I can
I'm happy
do you
for
want,
you. It
do you want
sounds
me
like
to
you have a
keep
nice
going?
bond.
I
Yeah,
have
do
a
you have
good
any other
bond.
bug insect pets in your house? Maybe,
Not insects. Not no. Right now it's just Spencer is like my biggest, homie. But I will say I did want to just let everyone know that, podcast stars, they're just like us. I have tons and tons of mushrooms growing out the side of my house. And one can only assume that it's because there's probably mold inside my walls. And I just want everyone to know that this is the Bay Area. So I pay $4,100 a month to rent this place. And there's termites, there's mushrooms, there's spiders.
And not to mention your power goes out like 3 times a week. Where are we on the regret that I moved to this location meter? Because
Yeah.
I think that you're actually despite all this stuff, I know you really love living there, so I feel like maybe it's not as high as a lot of people might think.
I do. I do love living here. My dogs like it, and that's the biggest thing. But I will say my goal is to be back in LA. Like I love LA. I want to be back there hopefully within the next 5 years is my goal. So I'm putting that out into the universe, and it's either that or I'm going back alone and Ryan can stay up here by himself.
Shout out
Just
Ryan,
kidding.
former guest of Down and Dirty with Darci.
Love you, babe. Yeah, people were telling me, they were texting me today that they listened to it and they really liked it. And
episode
that it's
14.
Interesting. Oh, episode 14, he's got it on lock. But no, that like he didn't go to college and he makes more money than most people. So it's a very interesting job. But enough about him. He sucks. I really want to talk about the other sex symbol that I like right now. And his name is Keanu Reeves. How do you feel about Keanu?
I love Keanu.
Okay.
I am a massive Keanu fan. How can you not be? That's just my question for everyone in the world. How can you not be?
He's 58 and he's doing the damn thing. Like
holy crap,
all
he's
of
that
his
old?
Yes, he does all of his action. He likes to refer to it as action because he doesn't do all of his stunts, but he does all of his action scenes. So anything stunt wise, like if he's getting hit by a car and stuff, he doesn't do that, but he does all of his action. He has a super interesting life. Like his mom ran away when she was 15 from like some England or something, and then started living in Beirut, and then that's where he was born.
Oh,
it was a whole yeah. He's very, very fascinating man. He's half Hawaiian. What else?
Oh my God. You also always see these stories on social media about like Keanu Reeves is like gave a homeless man like a 3-course meal and then like sat on a bench and talked to him for like 6 hours about his life. And nice it's like, person. This is why Keanu Reeves is like the greatest human on earth. And then you're like, God, I love Keanu.
And so my weekend was spent trying to figure out when I could go see John Wick 4. And I ended up at the 10 a.m. showing because that's just what you do when you're 31 years old. And it was 3 hours long, but it was the best 3 hours of my entire life. Are you a John Wick fan or what? I feel like you're looking at me like as if you have not.
So I have not seen any John Wick movies. But
Any?
what? What is this? Did I
Any?
just like? Am I like going to hell now?
I feel like it's a staple. Like it's an American staple. It's like you've at least watched the first or second one. Like I understand maybe not getting
I've
into the
seen all.
weeds,
Okay,
but
I've seen all the trailers.
okay.
I remember. So the
Okay.
third one, there's a cool picture of him like riding a horse and then like shooting someone in the head. Yeah, I know
Yep,
that. I was like, damn, that movie
yeah.
looks pretty sick. I didn't see it though.
I think the best part about Keanu Reeves being an action star is that he has a pigeon toe and he's bow legged. So when he's like running in the film, like it is hilarious. And so now that you know that, you're gonna like see it more when you watch, because I know you're gonna watch now. And if I could give you any advice, it would be start from chapter 1, and then go from there. But I won't bore you with any more John Wick talk other than greatest movie series of all time, and I'm just gonna end it with that. And you
Oh,
can't
really?
say
Okay,
anything.
greatest of all time. Well, I do know a couple things about John Wick because I researched it before this episode since I knew you were going to ask me about it. So let me just say my couple of notes really quickly. One, John Wick 4, epic trailer. It looks awesome.
Okay.
Great. 98% of Rotten Tomatoes is my rating just off of that. 2,
Yep.
Lawrence Fishburne is in it. The Matrix reunion, Keanu and Lawrence Fishburne. Come on. Amazing. And
yeah,
3, oh, sorry. Just really quick, this is my last one.
Okay.
Lance Reddick was also in it. He just died like last week.
Oh.
And he's a legend. And the movie just came out. And I was like, oh, Lance Reddick, he's the man. He was in Lost. He was in The Wire. Amazing. So the cast is great. I'm going to have to go see it, potentially. Yeah. Maybe I'll just watch the trailer again. But it looks awesome.
They introduce new characters, so it's really important that you do see it. And then also, I don't know who those people are that you just named, and RIP, but I have never seen The Matrix, and so I think
see, I think you might like be farther down the blasphemy of not having seen like a movie series, a Keanu Reeves movie series, no less, than me.
Yeah, I mean, all I need is John Wick in my life, and that's it. But I will say, I think you're older than me, and so I think I missed the boat on Matrix.
I am older than you.
Yeah, I think I missed that boat, but it's okay. But more importantly, what I didn't miss is I was trying to segue a boat into a hotel. It didn't work.
Botel?
Oh my
Didn't miss
God,
the boat.
Botel.
Didn't miss the botel. Hotel. Motel. That's actually a motel.
Hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. I didn't miss is the amazing guest we have on, who this is really important. So don't skip this part, because if you are going to listen to Amanda speak on her real estate extraordinaire, she goes from PE teacher to Airbnb owner, and now she is officially the owner of a motel in Wyoming. It is so random. How did she get this motel? When I talked to her a couple weeks ago, she did not actually own it yet. She was going through the process. So she's officially the owner now. And she's literally, as we speak right now, she's in her car driving. She's currently in Utah. I was just looking at her Instagram, and she is driving up to Wyoming. And I am so excited for her. But she's an amazing guest. She's actually a personal friend of mine that I met through the interwebs, and through people that I've known in more so the interwebs, and work. A lot of networking. Look at us. Career. But she was honestly like, so I think that the episode is amazing and inspiring. And she talks a lot about how she did a pivot from teaching into what she's doing now. And she also created a dating app. So she tells us how much money it costs to create that, which is actually a lot more doable than I thought. So yeah, I think we should dive right in.
Yeah, she's also, just really quickly, she's a former college basketball player too, which I'm a big college basketball fan. So shout out, Amanda.
Shout out. March Madness.
She's really
is
cool.
Like so topical.
Yeah. The madness continues.
San Diego
in this
State. San Diego State
getting
to the Final Four. This is a sports podcast.
Are you an Aztecs fan?
I'm just a fan of like teams that I get excited that they win, because that was a good game. Like that came down to the wire.
Yeah. They're
and
awesome.
Plus, like, I'm from California, San Diego, whatever. I'll take it.
Yeah, cool. Love the state. Yeah, Amanda's great. The interview is super fun. And I hope everyone enjoys it, but it's going to be really good. So
yeah, let's get into
Woo!
it.
Woo! Woo!
And then the cleaning crew comes after 2 weeks and they're like, we have an issue. There's 100% urine on like 2 different duvets. Like, and I was like, that can't be right. And they were like, it's 100% pee.
And now you're thinking like human. Welcome back to Down and Dirty with Darci. I have Amanda McGrew here with me. Hi. I'm going to just let you take it from here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, let's see. There's a lot to unpack there. I am a former college basketball player who turned into a PE teacher and basketball coach. During that time, I created a dating app for current and former college and pro athletes called Playoff, which is still thriving now and running, which is great. And then I quit my day job as a teacher in 2021 and turned into a real estate investor. Bought a house in Phoenix, renovated it, turned it into an Airbnb, and now we are rolling on to hopefully the next property.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay, where's the next property? Because we're going to get into this for sure.
So fingers crossed. I'm almost to closing on a motel in Wyoming. We are supposed to close on Monday, so God willing, that's what goes down. Yeah.
And okay, I've been following along on your journey on Instagram, but also we're friends.
Yes.
Cat's out of the bag. We know each other. But it's cool how we know each other because I was thinking about it on the drive up here. I'm like, how did we meet?
Right.
Like, I think it was just networking. Friends of friends or something.
Yeah,
like,
and I think it started during my playoff journey, trying to market playoff. And you are a former college athlete, and I was a friend of a friend who was like, oh, you got to meet this girl, Darci. She works for Athletes to Careers, and she's got, you obviously had a ton of stuff going on. You had a network of athletes too that were following you. So it was kind of mutually beneficial for us to kind of get together. And then on our first Zoom, I was like, oh,
yeah, we literally
I like this girl.
Yeah, we like Zoom networked, and we're like, oh, did we just become best friends?
Yeah, I was like, this is happening.
And then like fast forward, a year or so later, you started an Airbnb in Phoenix, and we were chatting about it. And then I used your referral code to start my Airbnb.
You're my first referral.
I know. I've
gotten
2 more since then.
$600.
No way.
It's $720 each. It's great.
7?
Yeah.
Oh, who wants an Airbnb?
I know.
I will give
who
you
needs
my
a referral code? Seriously.
And then you actually flew up to Bend, which is where I was doing my Airbnb, and you helped me because you can trash me on this. I am zero abilities to DIY. Like that is just not my shtick and not my thing.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
Amanda gets there and she's like, all right, what are we doing? Where are we going? Like, what do you need hung? What do you need fixed?
Let's get to Home Depot.
And I'm like, here's some wine. Like, let's just
which, you know
drink.
what? There's 2 sides to every coin. Like you're going to need a little bit of that to make it work as well. So
I just stand there and tell jokes.
We complement each other very well.
Yeah. But I did make you party hard.
Yeah,
sure.
and I was into it. And I think at one point you had a hammer in your hand, so we were.
Yeah,
you know.
What kind of hammer? No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
I did take her to the strip club, but it's fine.
That is also true.
With Ryan, the 3 of us.
Exactly.
Oh my God, so down.
That's For the record,
funny.
not my idea, but I didn't walk away.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so take us back from the beginning. You're from LA, but like, how did you grow up? Did you always know you wanted to play basketball in college? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm one of 4 siblings. We were kind of like that stereotypical sports family. My dad was our coach all the way up through basically every season: soccer, basketball, softball, baseball, whatever. My sister ended up going to play college softball. She's 2 years older than me, and I had kind of wanted to stick with basketball that whole time. And I was so pumped about the idea of playing in college. And once I started getting my first few offers, I was like, oh shit, like this is a real possibility. This is so exciting. It was also kind of crazy for me because my junior year, I was 5'5", 100 pounds. And then from junior year to senior year, I shot up to 5'11". So
5'5" to 5'11"?
Yes. And most people were like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah. But I did have size 10 feet that entire time. So I think I knew all along. I was like, something good has to come from like these boats I have on
when you get a puppy and everyone's always like, ooh, their paws are so big. Like they're going to be a big dog.
Exactly. So I was always kind of like hoping like this has got to pay off, these big ass feet. Yeah. So anyways, that was obviously hugely beneficial to my basketball career.
Where'd you play?
I played at the University of Rhode Island. I'm originally from Santa Monica, California. But yeah, played at the University of Rhode Island. Most people ask how I got out there and what was the incentive for me to go that far. My sister left home to go play softball at Michigan State. So that was kind of my first introduction to like, you should leave home. Like you should go get out into the world, see what's going on. And sadly, my only criteria was that I wanted to be by the ocean. so
Rhode Island
that was not incredibly bright. Although I will say I do have an incredible love and fondness for New England. So I'm glad it worked out that way. But I didn't exactly think it through, knowing that like there's 9 months out of every year where you can't hang out at the beach in Rhode Island. But I was like, this is beautiful. You know, I went on my recruiting trip down in September down by the water. I was like, oh yeah, this is for me. They sucked me right in. But it was lovely. I love it out there. And still, like you know, college teammates are some of my closest friends to this day. So I'm out in New England as often as I possibly can be.
Right. And I know that you travel now. So like being a DIYer.
That's I guess I didn't even mention that part.
Yeah. She like literally like you like strapped your, basically want to call you a handyman, but I hate that term. Yeah. So we talked about that too. It's like, how do I label what I do?
Yeah. I'm truthfully not even totally sure. When people ask me, I kind of just say like DIY and home renovations.
Yeah.
But I also don't really subscribe to like needing to be called handy woman or handy. I don't really care. Like it's just not that big of a deal to me. But yeah, I think I really get excited doing hands-on work and like, you know, putting sweat equity into things, and loving seeing things from start to finish and like knowing that I created something. So once that got started, I was like, oh, this is like a runaway freight train. Like this could get crazy.
Yeah,
real quick.
I strapped you in before you. I was like, I got her before she was like charging.
Exactly. And I'm like, let's go hang out in Bend.
Right. But now you're like actually flying to places and like going and doing projects.
Yeah.
What's one of the best projects you've ever worked on?
Oh man, that's tough. I think one of the ones that I thought was the coolest was doing like a raw wood shiplap ceiling. And that was out at my former college teammate's house out in the DC area. So it's just really cool to be like flown out to places to like do work and stuff that I love to do, but also seeing that other people appreciate it as well. One of the other constant pieces of feedback that I get is that like, I'm always like, do people really, why would you want to pay for me to come out to you? I'm sure there's somebody who's handy near you who could do what I'm doing. But it's interesting because I think I've kind of cornered this little niche in the market where it's like a lot of the finish work that I'm doing, whether it's an accent wall or an accent ceiling or wallpaper or floating shelves or whatever, it's like a little bit too much for a handy person who maybe isn't into design or that piece of it, but it's definitely not big enough for like an actual contractor. Yeah. So it's kind of this sweet spot of like, well, I don't know who I would even call to get this done. Yeah. So that piece is cool too, because I also love the design conversation behind most of this stuff too.
Right.
So it all seems to kind of flow very well together.
Your tagline should be like, job too big for a handyman, too small for a contractor.
Right. Nothing too small for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually been like pretty cool to see how much work I've been getting from friends of mine, current and former, people I've known in the past or whatever, but also like from Instagram, people seeing what I've been posting and, you know, before and afters, and people reaching out and saying, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Well, I need that done at my house or whatever. So it's actually been really, really cool to see that grow a little bit.
I want to take it back to the dating app just because that was such a big, I mean, to be a PE teacher that's building a dating app is kind of like a very like interesting situation. So I have a lot of teachers that listen and follow me and a lot of teachers that are pivoting right now or even just wanting a side hustle. So what was the thought process in your mind of like, I can do this? Also, if you can you share like some numbers as far as like how much did it cost you to start this app? Yeah. How did you do it? Like walk us through it.
So like I said, I was a PE teacher and basketball coach for 10 years. While I was coaching, for 6 of those years, I was a high school basketball coach, which took up quite a bit of my time. The team was really, really good and very competitive. So that was very rewarding for me. But once I took a step away from coaching high school basketball, I just had my PE teaching job, and I was left with all this time. You know what I mean? Like every break that a student gets, spring break, winter break, summer break. And I knew I had more to give. I didn't know what that was going to come in the form of, but I knew there was more for me out there. So when the idea for Playoff came, I kind of thought like, all right, well, there's like a dating app for every genre of people out there. Like, who are my people? It certainly wasn't based on race or, you know, religion or sexual orientation. Or I was like, who are my people? And I kept coming back to that. Like athletes have always been my people. I always have related to them and identified well with them. And so I did some LinkedIn research, and I honestly, all I did was I searched freelance app developer on LinkedIn, looked at people in Los Angeles, narrowed it down to Los Angeles, and just started sending cold messages. And all I said was, I was so afraid of giving my idea away because I was like, oh my God, this is the $1 billion idea. And I didn't want to say what it was. Yeah. So I'm in these messages and I'm like, hi, my name is Amanda. I'm wondering if you could recreate like a Tinder for me for a specific group of people who had to verify that they did whatever they said they did. And I was like, and if you could do that, how much would it cost? How long would it take? You know, whatever. And this is so terrible. I honestly started messaging people based on what their profile pictures looked like.
Yeah.
Like, do you look LinkedIn. Fun? Yeah. And do you look cool to work with? Do you look like you would be easy to talk to on the phone? Like, and those are the people I messaged. And I got back a ton of quotes, a ton of responses, and the quotes were anywhere between $10,000 and it would take a year to like $150,000 and it would take probably also a year. I don't even remember. But I ended up landing on a guy who charged me, I think he charged me 16 grand and he got it done pretty bare bones. Like it wasn't anything magnificent at the very beginning, but he got it done in 3 months. And then
3 months, $16,000. Yep. You have a functioning dating app.
It took us a month.
Just need to be on.
Exactly. It took us 1 more month to get it approved by the App Store because the App Store will approve any of your betas super quick because you're just testing it. But then once you actually want to go live in the App Store, you have to jump through a bunch more hoops. So we finally got it in the App Store. It was great. And this whole time you're still teaching. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And I was teaching the whole time. I was actually still coaching lower school and middle school at that time too. But doing the app completely on my own in terms of like, I have no design background in terms of web development and like web design, graphics, none of it. I had no clue what I was doing. All I said was like, I was like, what should our logo be? And I was like, I needed to be something that is universal to athletes that every athlete can relate to. And that is like, right when you look at it, that's what you think of. So we landed on a whistle and I was super pumped about it. But other than that, I was like, that's kind of all I know that I want. Otherwise, just kind of like make it look like Tinder. Like, I don't know. Like
make it look like a dating
app. I don't know. You guys know what to do. And so that was pretty difficult. But I will say I think one of my biggest things that I take away from that is that like, I am very happy that I dove in and I was well aware of what I didn't know. You know, had I knew almost nothing. Had I been too, cautious and too risk averse, I wouldn't have done it. And had I known exactly how much money we needed to go into it, or exactly how much time, or what I didn't know, I feel like I was perfectly naive, and it was great.
That. Going in blind makes things easier. Yeah. I mean, obviously do your research, of course, but there's something about that ignorance of like, I just don't know what I don't know, and I'm gonna just go for it. And I think if I would have sat there and done a bunch of research before starting Career Coach Darci, I probably wouldn't have done it because I would have been like, oh, I'm never going to get to that point. Or that like analysis paralysis situation.
And everything feels too overwhelming. Everything feels like it's a mountain you cannot possibly climb. And how am I going to get to the top of that? Who's going to help me? And I was like, no, we're just going to start. Yeah. If you just start, you'll figure it out.
Right.
Lord knows that's what I'm going to try to do with this damn motel because I have no clue what's going on.
Holy moly. Okay, let's dive into this. How did you find a hotel in Grable, Wyoming?
Grable, Wyoming.
Which is, look it up on a map, and you don't know where it is.
It is a very small town, and it is about 45 minutes east of Cody. And Cody is a much more well-known town that is at the eastern entrance of Yellowstone. So that's kind of become a seasonally touristy town. But yeah, it's also on the highway that it connects Yellowstone National Park to Black Hills National Forest, where Mount Rushmore is, and everything in South Dakota. So it's a very frequently traveled highway, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily a place where people come all the time as a tourist. But it's a place where people find themselves quite a bit, which is interesting.
Like a stopover town.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I actually had a buddy on Instagram who my sister knew a while back, and that story is funny too. But we started following each other on Instagram when I got the Phoenix house. And we just would message each other back and forth and say, oh my gosh, cool project, or this and that. He's doing similar stuff up in Montana.
Sweet hammer.
Yeah, exactly. Love that accent, Wall. Love what you're doing over there.
Yeah.
And so one day we were kind of like, oh, we should do a deal together. That'd be so fun. Like, that'd be awesome. And we would send each other listings of like, oh, this would be so cool to renovate, but like never really serious. And then one day I was in DC working at this other friend's house, and he sends me this listing. And I think what he said was, I need you to convince me why this is a bad idea, because I can't stop looking at this.
Oh, shit.
And I opened it up, and it was a 20-unit motel in the middle of Wyoming. And I was like, I would never convince you not to do this. How can I sign up? Yeah. This is amazing. Oh my God. And he was like, well, that's actually the thing. You know, I've got a little bit of money, but I don't have a lot of time. And I was like, I've got time.
I quit my job. Yeah, I got time.
And so he started laughing, and he was like, that's kind of what I was banking on. Like, that would be really cool if we did this together. And it just kind of took off from there. And we did, you know, quite a bit of research about where this was and, you know, what we thought about it and ran the numbers and all that stuff. But I'm like more of this, like, my creative mind went nuts. I was like, oh my God, every room could have a theme, and it could be like, what a cool, like, I just went crazy.
It's a 20-unit motel.
Yes.
What did you buy it for?
So we bought it it was listed for $275, which is insane, considering we both live in California.
Right.
$275,000. We our contract is for $250.
Okay.
So we got it accepted for $250. We just had our final inspection yesterday, and it seems like everything is going well. We'll go through the inspection report later today, and then barring any crazy issues, like, we'll still go for it. You know, Kyle and I are definitely on the same page about, if something comes up in the inspection where there's some plumbing issue that's going to cost us $100,000 to fix, we have to walk away. We're not loaded with money. We don't have endless, like, this bottomless pit of funding.
Right.
So as long as it makes sense towards what we want to do, we want to try to get at least 3 to 4 units finished and rented, you know, by August or so, like 4 to 5 months in, to be able to start cash flowing and cover the mortgage, considering the mortgage won't be that high because the cost of the property isn't super high. So if we can get the mortgage covered, then we can kind of sit back and reevaluate. How
many units do you plan on having? Because it's 20 units right now, but I'm sure you're not going to have all 20, right?
Right. And we actually don't even want to operate it as a functional motel anymore. So we are going to knock down some walls or create some doorways and kind of turn a couple double units into one. But we want to create a mixture of long-term housing and short-term housing. So in that area, apparently long-term housing is very difficult to come by. And if there is anything available, it's super expensive. So in that area, like, the average cost of the houses that we saw were like in the 200,000s. And it's like, okay, that's the same cost of a 20-unit motel. Right. So there's a lot of people that can't afford that.
Yeah.
So we are thrilled to be able to make some apartments and then have probably like, we're thinking probably 6 or 7 short-term rentals as Airbnbs. And then maybe 10 or so long-term apartments. We'll have a much better idea of that once we get in there and start, like, knocking down walls, and it might shift very quickly.
What's your Instagram
My
handle
Instagram
so everyone
is
can watch?
At Just Do It Amanda.
Just Do It Amanda.
And actually, what I was going to tell you this morning is that I woke up, and I'm not like a TikToker really. And I know you are just like the queen of social media. And I woke up this morning, a couple days ago, I said to myself, okay, if you want people to follow this motel journey, you think it's cool, Amanda, and you also think everybody else is going to think it's pretty cool too. It's just kind of a fun thing. And I said, you got to start posting on TikTok more. You got to give it a chance.
Hell yeah.
It's super exhausting for me, but I was like, you got to try. I wake up this morning and one of my videos has gone viral.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. And that reel of The Office, that meme played in my head. It's like,
everyone's like running around.
Stay fucking calm. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And so I think it's still going viral now.
Oh
but
my God,
I'm
how
up.
Exciting.
I had like 400 followers on TikTok last night, and as of before I walked in here, I have 13,000.
13,000?
Yeah.
Wait,
what?
Sorry, I'm chiming in now all of a sudden, but it's so exciting when that happens.
Know.
And I honestly feel like
it's crazy.
TikTok is weird right now. Things don't go viral as often.
Right.
So that's a really big deal.
I didn't know that.
That's, I mean, at least
this
for
is
me.
a huge deal. This is the beginning of your TikTok
journey.
Oh
yeah. Don't stop.
And so I just kind of thought to myself, like, I think this is a tribute to the fact that, like, what I'm trying to do is pretty freaking exciting.
Yeah.
Like,
that's people, so cool. I got chills for you.
Thank you. Like, I think it's resonating with people. Like, And of course,
one thing to go viral. It's another thing to go viral and get followers.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
I didn't know that.
It's so different. Like you can have a video go viral and everyone just loves the video, but nobody cares enough about you to actually follow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So there's a huge difference there.
Okay.
Yeah. So the fact that you grew that's
even more exciting.
Huge.
People want more from you.
Yeah.
You got to post every day now.
You got to post every day now.
No, like don't.
This is your window. This is your window.
Capitalize on it. And I also, it's funny because Kyle and I talked a lot about how, in theory, we would love, I created this whole like pitch deck where we want to be able to pitch to brands to try to get product for the renovation.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be so expensive. And we have a little bit of a budget, but we're certainly not floating in cash. So it's like, there's going to have, and obviously I'm going out there to do the work. So it's like, we're trying to pinch every penny we can. And so if we can get some brand partnerships going, and I texted Kyle this morning and I was like, I think this brand partnership thing may have opened up a little bit. This may become like an actual possibility now. And he was like, oh my God, I fucking love it.
Literally, that is how you do it. Once you have a following on TikTok, you use that and then you send them the pitch deck and say, hey, like I'm gonna be putting this stuff into the home. And like you can get paint, you can get anything. And honestly, start now just like free trade.
Right.
Because you can get that.
Totally.
And then build from there. And then obviously you can start charging.
It just seems like another world. Yeah. And I was like, luckily, I've heard all the horror stories of how horrible people can be on TikTok, and I'm well aware of like, and I've got pretty thick skin. I'm kind of like, I don't really give a shit, but everybody says that too.
You're also like, how can you be mean to someone that's just like DIY? Like, I'm sorry.
I'm not commenting on anybody else. Right. I'm just doing my thing.
I'm telling people what to do in an interview. So people are like, what the fuck does this
so you
chick
could disagree potentially.
You could disagree. But how are you going to disagree with some? Well, they're probably going to be like, you're a dumbass for trying to like invest in Grable.
I've definitely had some people be like, oh, that looks like a money pit or whatever. I'm like, to each their own. That's fine. It might be a money pit. What the hell do I know?
That's good content.
Exactly. People are going to watch either way. It could be a train wreck.
Raimi, have you ever been to Grable, Wyoming? Or have you ever heard of it?
No, I've never, but I want to now.
I mean, right? It gets the people going.
She's our travel queen. So I'm like, but you've been around Wyoming or no?
I have been I've been to Wyoming. I've been to like Jackson.
Jackson's awesome.
Yeah, so fun.
It is really, really great.
I had a good stint in Casper.
Oh, nice.
I had a great time.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I actually haven't been to Casper. And I know it's funny because one of the first things people are always kind of leery of someone from California moving out to the West, out to Montana or Wyoming, because it's just gotten so much more popular, especially during COVID. And so I think because Kyle and I both are so interested in like being a part of the community and connecting with the community, like the number one comment I've been getting on this TikTok is like, oh my God, I'm from around there. I'm so excited to have this place fixed up. This is so exciting. Welcome to the area. That's been so nice. Incredible. Like
I got the opposite in Oregon.
Incredible. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. And also like Bend being like a little more touristy, it's like, I think it's the equivalent of people going to like Bozeman, Montana, where it's like, it's already been established that's what people are trying to do. Exactly. Yeah. And so I think the other thing about that is like you go buy a home that might be a second home or might be a building or whatever. And if you don't live there, I think that is the difficulty that a lot of local people have with it, where it's like, oh, like, you're getting the best of what we have to offer, but not necessarily contributing to the economy or whatever. So I think people are really thrilled to know that like, I'm literally moving to Grable. I'm uprooting my entire life and I cannot wait. Like, it's going to be awesome.
Like I'm going to be spending all my money here.
Exactly.
Like, eating here, local businesses.
Exactly. So I think that part, really like helps people get on board with it, it seems like. So that's super exciting.
So as a real estate investor, what is like, don't roll your eyes.
What a weird thing.
As a real estate investor, what would you say one thing that people like don't know about it that you wish they did?
That you certainly don't have to be rich and you certainly don't have to start rich. Because I am not rich. I quit my job. I was a teacher. I mean, no one's getting rich being a teacher. But I will say I've also been pretty financially savvy in terms of all the time I was, for all those 10 years of me being a teacher, I was babysitting kids. I was training kids in basketball on the side. I'm very much a saver.
You were saving.
And so I tried to plan ahead as much as I possibly could before I quit. But having said that, I was never making six figures as a teacher. So there was a lot kind of going on that I expected having to that I would need to make a ton of money before I could start getting going on this. The Phoenix house, I actually split with my parents. So we bought that house together.
Walk us through. I feel like I'm on deeper, what is it called? Deeper Pockets?
Oh yeah, Bigger Pockets.
Bigger Pockets, Deeper.
Close enough. We're hoping they're deeper at some point.
Yeah, bigger pockets. Walk us through that deal. Like,
oh, I will.
How much was it? Yeah.
So actually, originally I was looking in the Palm Springs area because as someone from LA, that would just be such an easy, drive to the desert to have a house with a pool and, whatever. And the restrictions in the whole desert were so awful. And this was during COVID. So they were like, some of those towns weren't even giving new Airbnb permits, short-term rental permits. So it was super difficult. And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to get into the politics of trying to get an Airbnb permit and then not being able to get one and then not being able to rent the house out and whatever. So I just went a little bit further down the 10 freeway and decided to go for Phoenix. It's a little bit of like the Wild West out there in terms of short-term rentals. At least it seemed that way. Scottsdale is much more regulated because that's much more of like a bachelorette party town, which is right. It's like 20 minutes from me. But the city of Phoenix and Greater Phoenix seemed a lot more easier to infiltrate. So I kind of like pitched it to my parents and they were like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I thought you were going to be focusing on playoff. And I was like, yeah, we'll get there.
Like,
we'll get there. Don't worry.
But
we
like,
have
you
much
heard about
time.
Airbnb?
And they were like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And they have known for a while that I've actually been wanting to get out of LA. I love the small town that was once a small town where I was born and raised that is not a small town anymore. Right. But I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with LA in general.
You should listen to our previous podcast with Love and Loathing LA.
Oh my God.
She's the epitome of.
Oh man. I feel like I would connect heavily. Heavily. So I'd been wanting to get out for a while and this Phoenix house seemed like the perfect opportunity because it also was temporary. You buy the house, you go move to the house, you renovate it, and then as soon as you finish it, you put it up on Airbnb and you get the hell out of there.
Yeah,
and
like,
you just
next?
hope it starts making money. And
simple as that.
Exactly. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to be rolling in the dough. It's going to be awesome. My mom's like, okay, are you sure that's how that works? I'm like, trust me, of course. And
have you watched TikTok?
I'm like, come on. They make it
money.
so easy. Yeah. Come on. So we get out there. Me and my mom kind of fall in love with this house because the backyard was so awesome. We put in an offer. We did not think to touch the pool and ask if it was heated. That was probably like mistake number one. It was not heated, so we had to pay like $8,000 for a pool heater.
No. Wait,
so
how much was the house?
That house was $470.
Oh, wow.
$472.
Okay. And it's a what?
That is a 4-bed, 2-bath.
Okay.
Single family home in North Phoenix, just about 20 minutes north of downtown and the airport and all that.
And if you Google Cactus House Airbnb, it should pop up, right?
I think so.
It's called the
Cactus House. I think on Airbnb, it's like airbnb.com, like / I think it's Cactus House PHX. I'm pretty sure. But it's also in my Instagram bio. There's probably a lot of cactus houses now that I think about it in all kinds of desert towns. But it's been a super, as you know, with Airbnb, it's been like a super rewarding process, but also a struggle. Like there's a lot that goes on. We've had horrible guests. We've had, things break. And
tell us a story about, I know which one, but tell us a story about the worst guests ever. Oh, listen
the
up.
Craziest story. So this woman books, and sometimes if you have enough good reviews, you don't have to inquire about booking. You can just book automatically.
Yeah.
Instant. And so she books and for 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, sweet. 2 weeks that's like anything under a month, but over a week is like huge because you're going to make a big chunk of money because they're not getting the monthly discount. Right. But it's just great. So I was like, oh, this is sweet. So you can watch people kind of come and go on the Ring camera, but other than that, you really don't have much of a hand on the pulse of what's going on. And you have to get very comfortable with that because yes, it's your house, but you can't really act like it's your house because then you'll be butthurt anytime anything happens. Right. Like you just can't be that in everybody's business. So I just kind of leave it alone. I'm watching people come and go. And then the cleaning crew comes after 2 weeks and they're like, we have an issue. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, bed frames are broken. All the furniture's been moved in the rooms. Like nightstands are shoved up against the windows. Beds are shoved up against the windows. It's like they made room for something. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not the worst thing that's ever happened.
Move it
but
back. Yeah.
We can move it back. They're like, there's also like 100% urine on like 2 different duvets. Like
two different
beds. It was two different beds. And I was like, that can't be right. There's no way. And they were like, it's 100% pee.
And now you're thinking like human or animal?
I was like, I don't even know. And then I'm like, what could have possibly happened? So then I post this on my Instagram and all my friends are like, oh my God, were they running like a sex party? Were they just on drugs? What was going on? And I was like, you guys, I have no idea. So then I reach out to this woman And they didn't check out in time, so I was actually communicating with her that whole day because I was like, you guys need to get out. You know, the next guest is coming in. But at this point, I didn't think anything was wrong.
They're like, sorry, we're leaving pea-stained duvets.
And not attempting to clean it up. Like, that was the other thing.
How do you walk out of that house?
If you screw up somebody's house like that badly, you're mortified no matter what. You can't just like, and they were almost like ships in the night crossing with the cleaning team. So it's like, if someone's like passing by you to come and clean the house and you just left it in that condition, it's like, you're a terrible person.
Yeah.
Like that's.
And the cleaner sent you photos and I saw those photos.
Yes. It is 100% urine on the duvets. So those had to be thrown away. Now I will say, I hit up the woman and I was like, hey, unfortunately, like, here's what I found. Like, that's really disappointing, but like, I want to give you an opportunity to make it right. Would you rather chat with me about this or would you rather me submit, you know, to Airbnb some sort of claim?
Right.
And so she writes back and is like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. It comes out that she wasn't the one who was actually staying there.
She just booked it.
So she just booked it on behalf of some group, right? And so she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Please send me the bill. We don't have to go through Airbnb, you know, whatever. And I'm like, okay, like, this is kind of weird. Yeah. And so I give her the total. She Zells me right away. And then it comes from this like LLC. And so I'm like,
weird.
This is getting even more weird. Yeah. And so at first I was like, she rented them for like her friends, a few drunk people, whatever. And then I go look up the LLC and I'm like looking up such and such LLC in Phoenix. And it's like this group home and it's like group therapy. There was like Alcoholics Anonymous. There was like a bunch of different like therapy options that they provided. And they also provided housing for some of their clients. And so I was like, interesting. And so I still don't know because I didn't go back and ask her, but it's like, I can't even imagine. They ended up booking for like 3 or 4 days beyond what they originally booked for. So she said something like, our housing isn't ready yet when she booked for more days.
Oh, so they were putting them in their Airbnb.
So all I can think is that they were like having some sort of like adult group home thing. I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh my gosh. How much did you charge her for the damages?
I think the damages ended up being $1,200.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dang.
There was a broken bed frame. There were 2 or 3 damaged rugs that were stained.
Wow.
There were stains inside the fridge. There were and then the duvets and all the linens had to go.
Oh my God.
And then I think like I don't know, a handful of like
I have not had
8
that
towels or something. Yeah, it was crazy. But what's crazy is that like she was so mortified that like also if she gets a bad review, it's like that obviously affects who's going to rent to her in the future, which is sad because I'm sure if she ever wants to go travel herself, like that's going to now pop up.
Yeah.
So I tried to be super honest in the review where I like said everything that happened, but I was like, she was lovely about reconciling everything. It didn't seem like it was her who even stayed at the house, but here's the information. Like, because you obviously also want to like team up with hosts to make sure hosts kind of have each other's back. Where it's like, if I wouldn't host this person again, I would happily let other hosts know that because that's not a position I want somebody else to have to be in.
Wild.
Yeah, it was crazy.
The weirdest thing I've had was someone messaged me like a million questions, and I should have known. They messaged me a million questions before, like, what detergent do you use on the sheets, and like this and that, and like my wife's allergic, and I was just like, here's all the information.
Here's all the information.
If it doesn't work for you, I literally don't care.
Right.
And they're like, oh no, that's fine. We'll still book whatever. And then they check in. The second they get in, I get a picture text. There's like some dust in the crevice of like the window crease, and they take a picture. They're like, we're not. They literally just sent it and said, we're not staying here. We can't do it. And that was it. And I was like, and then they had already booked. So I had to go through this whole, I couldn't just refund them their money and make it easy, right? Airbnb has to get involved. Then Airbnb took all my service money because Airbnb sucks.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it was like a whole thing.
That's awful.
I know.
I've definitely had a few guests reach out with like kind of an unordinary amount of questions where you're kind of like, what are you getting at here?
Actually, it's booked that weekend.
Yeah. And I'm like, actually, I don't think I'd rather not take your money. At this point, it's not worth it.
So Someone asked me if there was cameras inside the home. And I was like, no, but that's terrifying that you would even think
scary.
That. And has there been in other places?
Actually, it's funny you should say that. There are people who, first of all, there are people who have said that I should definitely have a camera on my pool in the backyard, which I already would never do, but I understand the sentiment.
Yeah.
I understand why people have that feeling.
Yeah.
100%. And it's kind of a liability thing. I get it.
But that's so, yeah.
But also you have to disclose that on Airbnb.
Because I'd be skinny dipping in that pool.
Right?
I'm
like, and also to each their own. Like, that's why you're renting a house, like to go do what you want to do in private, because you're not doing that at a hotel pool. So it's just kind of like, do whatever you need to do. And that's kind of the game you start playing when you want to become an Airbnb host. So it's, you got to kind of take the good with the bad. So, there's some people who are adamant about having a backdoor camera or backyard camera. And I'm like, absolutely not. No. But then there's other people I've read in these Facebook host groups that are like, oh yeah, we definitely have cameras inside in all the living areas. Nowhere where it's private. I'm like, everywhere is private if they get to rent the whole damn house.
Right.
The whole thing should be private. I'm like, that's...
Yeah, I agree.
I think a lot of hosts are just really scared about what's going to happen to their property, which they're absolutely allowed to be. However, you're just kind of rubbing guests the wrong way. Yeah. You're probably better off at that point trying to long-term rent it to tenants who you get to meet and who you want to like really take care of your house, but.
So doing what you do you feel like this is it for you? Like this is the plan? Like where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Do I feel like this is it for me? I feel like it's never really it.
Like you're going to continue with the real estate route.
I feel like I am 100% going in the right direction. I feel like I definitely am going in the right direction of where I want to be headed. I knew I left college once I was done playing basketball and had a finance degree and a marketing degree and had no intention of using either one of those. Right. Ever. I was like, what can I do? This was a means to play college basketball. Right. That was what my college life was. And I was kind of like, all right, now that I'm done with that, like I will never be in an office. That's just not something I can do. I know that about myself. And so I knew teaching wasn't for me either. It was a great opportunity because I love kids. I love basketball. I love, physical movement. And it was like such a great environment. I loved my coworkers. It was just like the best. And it also allowed me the time and freedom and space to be able to figure out what I really wanted to do and what I really thought I was good at. During my teaching career, I spent tons of time refinishing furniture. I had a handmade sign business on Etsy. So I was always kind of like getting my hands dirty with stuff. And so I definitely think I'm headed in the right direction with this. I would love to get to a point where I'm only working on properties that I own. So like right now I've been like a DIY for hire type thing where I am getting hired to do projects in people's houses. That, although it's amazing and fun and lucrative, it's also like, I'm also like not doing it as a licensed professional. So it's like, that's not that intelligent. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's not the smartest thing anyone's ever done. Yeah. So luckily up until this point, it's been mostly friends, who trust me. But yeah, I don't think I really want to get in the habit of being in other people's houses for most of the days. I would like to be doing that exact same work on properties that I own that could eventually become rental properties. And then, you don't need to worry about paying yourself to do the work. It's like, it's paying for itself because you bought the property,
Like for people that are listening and want to get involved in real estate, I feel like something that you've done that has been great for you is partnering with people, but it's also like fucking scary because how do you trust, like, obviously you have your parents, so there's that. Yeah. But it's like, what did you do to ensure your protection and make sure, especially with Kyle, because you guys are just friends, right? Like, what did you guys do to make sure that's going to work out?
So part of it is psychotic, and like people look at it from the outside and they're like, who the hell would do that? Like you're out of your mind.
And by the way, let me just say, Kyle is a random person that her sister met on a plane. Yep. And just,
The quick story is my sister met him in an airport and they hit it off as friends and were just like chatting or whatever. And they exchanged Instagram information. When I bought the Phoenix house, my sister was like, oh, you got to go follow my friend Kyle. He's into the same stuff you're into. He's got a triplex in Montana. He's kind of renovating it. Like, check him out. So we started following each other. That whole time I thought like this was a real friend of my sister's. Like I thought they were like close friends. And then he's like, I texted my sister one day and I go, oh yeah, Kyle showed me this property in Wyoming that he wants to go in on with me. And she goes, wait, Kyle from Instagram? I go, yeah. And she goes, oh my God, I like barely know him. He seems great, but like and I go, oh, well now he and I are like super cool. Like, I was like, I think we are going to partner. Like, this is great. And
that is wild.
It sounds so naive and ridiculous, but I really felt like I had a pretty good grip on who he was as a person based on the conversations we had had up until that point.
Based on his Instagram.
Based on his Instagram photos, because that's what we all present our very best.
Yeah.
And I also had friends, once I got going with the Phoenix house, I had people in my life who were kind of like peripheral friends, were like, maybe I hadn't heard from you in like 5 or 10 years, but you reached out on Instagram, of people who were looking to invest. So that, I would say, is the other thing. If you can kind of get started doing the part of that business that you like for me, it's the DIY and the renovation.
Right.
It almost seems like the money will find its way to you.
You're building trust by showing people what you're good at.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, she's doing this every day. She's putting her heart and soul into
exactly.
this. We've talked about like partnering on something for sure.
Absolutely.
And we will in the future. Definitely. But like, and there's like that trust there of like, we know where each other's coming from.
Right. And I think like, when I post like I do with my on Instagram, where it's like, here's the before and after of this wall or of these shelves or whatever, people are like, oh yeah, she's doing this kind of thing every day. She literally left the teaching world and was like, fuck that, I'm gonna go do this. I'm all in. Like that's the other thing about me, is that like once you start to get to know me, you realize like, if I'm in,
you're 100%.
We've dropped everything. Like we are all in, and we're going to the moon.
That's like what I'm saying. When you came up to Bend, and you're like, "What other work can we do?" I'm like, "Can we just go get some food?" And you're like, "What are we doing?"
And we need to get these rooms ready.
You're like so in. I love it.
And it's like, I also think to myself, like, what an adventure. Like what? I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
What an adventure.
Yeah.
I have no idea if I'm going to end up in Wyoming next month, but if I am, how fucking cool.
So cool. Like, I can't wait to visit.
I don't need to be a resident of Wyoming for the rest of my life. I don't even need to be a resident of Wyoming for the next 2 years. Like, but I can.
Yeah.
Maybe I meet the love of my life. Maybe I stay there forever.
Let's put that into the universe.
Let's put that into the universe.
I feel like you're going to date someone from like Montana or Wyoming.
I mean,
100%.
Hey, if the shoe fits.
And it just so everyone listening, it's definitely not Kyle, because he's engaged.
It is not Kyle. He is engaged. He's lovely. But what's funny is on this viral TikTok video I showed him this morning, there was like a ton of comments that were like, oh my God, I'm here for this journey. This is so cool. Like, also Kyle. And I was like,
I was gonna say, everyone's gonna try and like stan you guys following
Right,
along.
you have to tell the story on TikTok about how you met Kyle, because people will eat that.
I definitely have to. And like, what's so funny is right when we first kind of got into this, where I was like, okay, if we're gonna do this together, like a week later, he got engaged. And I was like, and we had been talking more so daily at that point, because this deal was actually a real possibility now. And I still had never met him in person, but he gets engaged and I see it on Instagram. And I remember texting him like, dude, you didn't even tell me. I thought we were like besties now. Like, I didn't even know this was happening.
Am I invited?
And and so he's like, oh my gosh, sorry, it was crazy. And then I go like, I would also like to reach out to your fiance, Kate. Like I need to like, and he was like, oh, that'd be awesome. And I was like, I need her to know that like, who I am. I'm just some random woman who's on Instagram, like willing to travel wherever. And so I was like, I would love to reach out to her and like make a connection with her and like be friends. And so that went really well, because I was like, what a weird vibe too. To be like just getting engaged, then like saying to your partner, like, yeah, so me and this woman are gonna go by this motel.
Lady
like,
I met on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd be like,
are you out of your mind? Yeah. So I was like, I'd like to get ahead of that if I can. And he was like, oh no, it's just super nice.
No, that's perfect.
And she's awesome too. So yeah, it's just kind of like a random weird thing, but I feel like if you put the feelers out there, the right people are gonna kind of come into your life, you know?
Yeah. So and we're running out of time.
Okay.
So tell everyone, I know we've kind of talked about it, but like where they can follow you. I also, if there's any athletes listening out there that are single,
seriously,
get on Playoff.
Playoff is still functional. People are still meeting every single day. People are signing up every day. Anybody who competed beyond the high school level, do they just have to send
even
verification?
If it's like club or
junior college, anything. But yeah, you can follow me at Just Do It Amanda on Instagram or TikTok now.
Ayo.
Who knows? I might have 1 million followers by tomorrow. We'll see.
We're putting it out there.
God willing, and the river don't rise.
Yeah.
So yeah, Just Do It Amanda. That's me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
Really
Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
I know. Okay. All right.
Yay.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.
Thanks for listening to that Onomy podcast. Onomy is a creator-led educational platform that teaches you the things you wished you learned in school so you can thrive in adulthood. Onomy lessons are completely free, and they're taught by some of your favorite creators from around the internet. Head to onomy.co to start learning about things like budgeting, investing, taxes, how to thrive in your relationships, how to find your dream job, and so much more. That's onomy.co, onomy.co. See you there.